From a highly secure network of top secret locations across South Texas, this is the Spurs Insider. August edition, we have a guest. I'm your host, Mike Finger, joined as always by Express News Spurs beat writer Jeff McDonald. And instead of listening to us pontificate about nonsense this week, we've got somebody else to join in the nonsense, a good friend of the show, longtime friend of the show, longtime friend of Spurs fans everywhere, the voice of the Spurs for over 2 decades, Bill Land, who's retiring from TV, but now getting into podcasts, including the Spurs Insider. Bill, thank you so much for joining us. We're honored to have you.
You had me at nonsense. That's my kind of deal. A perfect fit for your program. I knew the qualifications were high.
Yes. Bill has Jeff and I have known him a long time. Like I said, good longtime friend of the Express News. Just a great Spurs guy. I mean, he's been part of that Spurs family for so long, and we always loved seeing him in arenas. And Jeff and I were just so disappointed this summer to hear that we're not going to see you in arenas anymore, doing your pregame prep, joining us with the pregame pop, meeting us for healthy food there on the road trips. Bill, congratulations on the retirement, but we are going to miss you. Are you going to miss us at all?
I am, and I mean that sincerely. That's relationships with all of the guys and gals that cover the Spurs, as well as our production team, is really what kind of keeps me going. Yeah, the games are a blast and everything else, but when it all comes down to it, it's the people you've been associated with all these years, and really it's kind of like a second family. So I'm really going to miss that. I'm excited about retirement. It was not an easy decision. But once I decided that was the way I was going to go, it was like a huge weight lifted off my shoulders when I told our friend and my boss, Mike Ciccarillo, that, hey, I'm done. And I'm not looking back as far as making that decision. So excited about being able to do whatever I want, whenever I want. And that includes a lot of traveling, a lot of fun with family. We've already got one grandchild, a second one on the way. Anybody can tell you grandkids are great. So a lot to look forward to, Mike and Jeff.
I think the best thing about grandkids is you can give them back when you're. That's what I've heard. You can give them back when you're done with them.
You must have been a fly on the wall here Saturday. Our son Cooper came down. He and I went out and played golf. My wife Gail's like, all right, I've got Eli, who's about 18, 19 months old now. I've got him for the next 4 hours. He was great. And then we got back to the house. He wakes up from a nap, started bawling for about 10 minutes. Gail said, he's all yours, Cooper. Man, it was great to have him here. See you later, buddy. And I think his diaper needs to be changed.
I gotta tell you, Mike Finger, you've been teasing a guest like to me for days now. We're gonna have a special guest. You kept telling me we're gonna have a special guest. Mm-hmm. I thought it was gonna be Beyonce.
No.
And then my second guest was Leon Panetta. And then it turned out to be Bill Land. It's better. You outdone Beyonce. So good work there.
That's a good joke. I think Bill had a joke with me when I was recruiting him for this, giving him the hard sell. He was asking if we would rather have Deion Sanders. Didn't you, Bill? But Deion declined.
Yeah.
Deion's more selective with who he talks to than Bill is.
Yes.
Man, have we had enough of Deion and we don't even cover him? With those Colorado writers supposed to be thinking, oh my God, how dreadful is this season going to be?
Actually, sometimes I wish Pop would tell me that he won't take questions for me, and then I can just stop.
This bleeds into something I wanted to talk to Bill about, because aside from Jeff McDonald and Mike Finger and Tom Orsborn, who wanted to make it this week but had another obligation, sorry, Bill. Bill Lance talked to Gregg Popovich an awful lot over the years, and now that you're You don't have to anymore. Now that you're no longer contractually obligated to have conversations with Gregg Popovich, you can tell us what you really think about him, Bill. You can be honest here. What do you think of? What when you look back on 2 decades of talking to Gregg Popovich, what do you think of?
Did your mic go dead? What was that? Oh, pop. Yeah, what do I really think?
Yeah.
You know, he is, those comparisons years ago to the most interesting man in the world.
Yeah.
In some aspects, he kind of fits that bill, I think. And it's, I tell people, and I've always told people this over the years, they would say, so what's he like or whatever other me? I think he's thrilled at keeping everybody in his life off balance. It's about the time you think you know what you're going to get, whether it's abuse or maybe an occasional pat on the back or a joke. It's like, nope, he goes 180 degrees the other direction. I can tell you, even though I've had, bits of ups and downs, but I think it's also he wants you to, I don't know how to put it. It's like I tell people that, all right, if you're going to talk to Pop, do not ask a yes or no question. Always ask an open-ended question. Do not suggest an answer. Make your question as brief as possible. Well, those are all really good journalism rules, right?
Exactly.
If you want to get a great response out of the subject, those are the things you should follow. And I can remember one time we were in Washington and I was doing a pregame hit with him. And I said something about, a lot of people that are close to this Wizards, but they're about to turn the corner with the additions they've made or whatever. And he says, who's everybody? Who's they? And I said, well, for one, I heard Hubie Brown made the comment the other day that he goes, oh, well, yeah, I happen to agree with Hubie. And then he went on. And so it's like you just have to be so careful, right? But I think deep down, he actually appreciates and enjoys the back and forth. Probably doesn't want to do it every game or every pregame or every postgame. But I think overall, he does have respect for the people in our business, no matter what level it might be.
He does make you, I think, and like, look, we're not looking for a journalism teacher, right? Like, that's not the job of the Spurs head coach.
Right.
But he does make you a better question asker, because in your head, Bill, you've done this, Jeff has done this millions of times. In your head, you're thinking about how he's going to reject whatever question you're coming up with in your head, and you're trying to phrase it in a way that makes it unrejectable. And that's good. That's good journalism practice.
What I love is you will do that. You'll think of every which way to ask the question, and you'll after so many years, you'll hear the loaded buzzwords in your head that are going to trip him up, or he's going to get distracted by and unload on that word instead of give you an answer. And you'll do this, and you'll go over it and in your head for a long time, and then you'll finally find something you think works, and the answer will be, did you stay up all night thinking of that question? And you're kind of like, yes, I did, actually. Thank you. Like, I did stay up all night trying to think of that question, and you just blew it. But
well, some fun times in that pregame availability room, which has evolved over the years, right, Bill? Since you started, that used to be just Pop standing in a corner and 3 guys standing there talking to him, and now it became this full-blown press conference. It's amazing. I want to get into that later, just how the league has changed since you've been in the league. But there'll be times during a pregame where Jeff and I and Bill are all there observing, and there will be a reporter who does not know all the lessons that Bill just explained, that is asking questions with buzzwords Pop doesn't like, and the question is going on too long, and we all can kind of look at each other while the question is going on with this knowing, like, kind of nod of this is about to get rejected. Like we all know exactly which kind of questions
Yeah.
have no chances. And
Yeah, it's like
that's
you're watching the
always fun.
volleyball get set, and here comes the spike, and you're just waiting on the spike.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like, and it's funny because all the locals or the regulars always know the let's say it's 1st of December and the Spurs are playing Minnesota for the second time, and a Minnesota reporter says, "So what kind of improvement have you seen in Anthony Edwards since the season started, Pop?" Here it comes. Have you seen our record? I watch them. I don't think our team's really setting the world on fire. I got more than I could do with this. And you wish somebody would say, "Oh, come on, watching tape. Your assistants are giving you different things that he's done. Give us an honest opinion of it," right? But people just go, "Okay, that's enough."
Did you ever come close to that, Bill? Was there ever a moment with Pop that either threw you or just frustrated you so much that you did come back at him and say, "Come on, Pop"?
Man, the guy retires and you're just looking for all the dirt now. I love it.
Well, yeah, like he can tell us now.
Unencumbered.
No, I'm trying to think. It shut down a few. I know one time guess we were in Cleveland. I think it was the end of the rodeo road trip. And they had, as usual, it was back in the heyday, they'd had a very successful trip. And I said something about, at the end of the interview, well, thanks for the time. And, with things going so well on the road, you kind of wish there was a couple more games before he went home. And he just looked at me like, "You idiot." Why would you ask? What are you talking about? And he gave me some answer that basically said that without calling me an idiot. I went, "Okay, we'll see you back in San Antonio." It closed the interview. But there again, you just never know. And during the interview, he had been fine. We joked around a little bit and everything else. But that's Pop.
I've told you guys this before privately, but I can tell it now. I don't care. It was a long time ago when Russell Westbrook was in his first or second year there in Oklahoma City, and one of the Oklahoma City reporters asked Pop before a game, I think Russell was coming off the bench maybe, and does he bring, is he kind of their version of Manu Ginobili, was the question. Does this, and meaning not that he's a Hall of Famer at that point, but meaning is Russell a guy that comes off the bench and gives you that boost in the second unit, and then is really a starting caliber player off the bench, was what the question was. And Pop just shut it down, and it never occurred to me. Like I didn't really, it's blah blah blah. Just shut the question. I don't watch other players. Maybe that was the answer there. And then like a couple weeks later, that was in San Antonio. A couple weeks later, we go to Oklahoma City, and a different Oklahoma City reporter before a game there asked just the basic question of like, "What do you think of Russell Westbrook?" And Pop's first words, I swear to goodness, were, "Well, he does a lot of the same things for us that Manu, or for them, that Manu Ginobili does for us." And I was standing next to the reporter that had asked that question 2 weeks earlier, and I looked at him and was like, kind of just shrugged at him, like, "Sorry, man, like that's how it goes. It just depends on the day."
It does.
You got your answer just a couple of weeks later.
You got your answer 2 weeks later.
I think this is a natural transition, Bill, because of one of the players Jeff just mentioned. But at the other end of the spectrum, who's your favorite guy to talk to over the years? I think we all know the answer, but go ahead and confirm.
It's got to be Manu. I mean, because as we were talking before we started recording, he truly, of all the players I've been around or observed, gets it from all aspects better than anybody I've ever seen. And he's genuine, I believe, in that he's a stand-up guy. He understands that being with the media is part of your responsibility. I've always said that, and it had to be league-wise or nobody would ever play for this team again if it wasn't done league-wise. When a guy signs his contract, before he inks it, the owner of the team should say, "Now, let's understand a few things. Here are some responsibilities, and you must do these because guess what? The media, television, radio, even the newspapers, everything else, all the development of this league and why you are being paid millions. Do you get it? Because if you don't sign the contract. And when this PR director comes to you and says, you need to do A, B, C, and D, you go, yes, sir. And he is looking out for your best interest. And like I said, if one team did that, they would not have any players. But if all of the league required it, wouldn't it be a wonderful world? Well, Manu, to get back to that, totally understands that position. And one of the things I really appreciate about him is he shows his vulnerability. When he's in a little bit of a bad streak, he's the first to tell you that, man, I've lost a little confidence, and which is natural. But he's also mentally tough enough to know he's going to get it back. But just, and he's always gracious about it. He'll joke and kid with you, whatever. Been lucky enough to go out to dinner with him a couple of times when we've been with a little bit bigger group, and he's just your next door neighbor there. You know, he's not Manu Ginobili, superstar, Hall of Fame basketball player. Just think the world of the guy.
That dynamic, Bill, with the big three, he and Tony and Tim, three pretty different personalities. And you had your moments with all of them, but what sticks out? I don't want to ask you about plays or championships because the fans know all about those, but just about your memories of kind of because you travel on the team plane, you're on the bus to games sometime, every time, I guess. But just the memories of those three guys and what it was like being around them during basically their whole careers.
You know, Mike, that's you talking about three different personalities. I've never really put all that together until just now, that I think that might be one of the biggest reasons they were so successful, that there wasn't a conflict of personalities. There wasn't two guys that had this just supersized ego, so kind of competing for attention or whatever, or even whether they'd share the ball or not, you know. Manu, as we've discussed, is Manu. Tim, you know, wants no coverage whatsoever. He's the happiest guy in the world to not have to deal with the media. Yet you hear from behind the scenes, you know, Shawn would tell you that he's one of the funniest guys on the team. But that funny personality and that sense of humor very seldom comes out publicly. And then you've got Tony, who is like supremely confident. And I wouldn't say borderline arrogant, but sometimes that enters into it. And then you got Manu, who is just so humble and cooperative. But you take those three together and look at the effect they can have on the rest of the team. And you can see why the rest of the team would just gravitate to those guys. And the confidence that they exude as a team, it was just incredible. And I don't think any of us could fully appreciate it into what they've gone through the last 5 or 6 years.
Right.
Because we kept saying, don't take this for granted. Don't take this for granted, where they would just always turn it on and pull games out. And we knew it. The other team knew it. And now you see where it's put on them, where they might play a great game and then down the final 2 minutes, they're not able to execute, because the other team is at that level and has that level of confidence. And that just made me appreciate the big three all the more, because it really all started with them.
What did we have someone with the team told us once, as far as those three guys' media personalities, is Manu always says the right thing, Tony says the wrong thing, and Tim says nothing. that's
well put.
Kind of the way it is. The thing I always appreciated about Tim, especially in the later year, I've said this before, in the later years where he wasn't necessarily showing up to talk every night and kind of felt that was his right not to have to, was when it was time for the captain to speak, when someone needed to speak for the team, when someone needed to take a bullet, when things weren't going well, he would show up for those moments, even towards the end. When he wasn't going to show up to talk about, we won our 20th game in a row and I scored 15 points and had 11 rebounds. He didn't see the purpose of that towards the end. But if they lost 5 in a row or 3 in a row, or things weren't going well, or something was happening, he would, or he played poorly. If he played poorly, he would show up and take that bullet. And I always appreciated at least that part of his media presence. And the other thing that you mentioned is just we try to stay objective, and I'm probably the most cynical person in what you guys call me, the dark cloud. Do you remember that? I'm cynical.
We do.
That's Bill's fine producer Daniel Ashcraft's nickname for you, which suits you well. But go ahead.
Sometimes even now, during these years or especially during these years where the wins aren't as plentiful as they used to be, you do kind of think back to like what luck to have been around and been courtside for some of the greatest basketball that's ever been played in the NBA when those three, Tim, Tony, and Manu, were doing it. And you do kind of notice in this day and age when they don't pull those games out at the end, and it does sort of hit you like, oh, they used to win these games all the time. Like when they weren't even the best team on the floor, or maybe weren't the best team on the floor for 45 minutes, but the last 3, they were the best team on the floor. And it was just a matter of like execution and this well-oiled machine that was just going to win that game. And we did take it for granted. I know we did. I know San Antonio did. I know I did. I know probably you did. Mike Finger did.
Mm-hmm. Hard not to. I mean,
but looking back, you do realize you realize what you were there for. Go ahead, it's not even the championship so much as like that Tuesday game in Minnesota where they played like crap for 45 minutes and then just willed their way to some victory. Those are the ones that you kind of take for granted now.
Yeah, great point about Tim being the stand-up guy, and I guess that's why you hear the stories about Pop saying that, or assistants, every time anybody gets together, they go out, they toast to Tim Duncan, because the reason they're all there and still coaching is because of Tim Duncan, and that doesn't mean that Manu and Tony weren't vital. But it all started with Timmy. And I had this has been 8 or 9, maybe 10 years ago. I was both our sons were playing professionally down in Australia, and they play season down there in the league they were in. They play in the summer, and Gail and I would go down there each summer. And I'm literally on my way to the airport, and I had to stop in and pick up a prescription at CVS, and it's near where Tim lives. And I'm rushing in there, and I see Tim just come in. And I just said, "Hey, Tim." He's kind of wait, he's friendly, but it's a prescription. I'm coming out. Tim's coming out, and 2 women come up and went, "Oh, Tim Duncan, can we get our picture taken with you?" And he just kind of gave the cheapish grin, and it's about 105 out, right? And I said, "Yeah, hey, Tim, can I get my picture with you?" He just looked like, "Get out of here." But you could tell he was like, "This is the best thing I want to do." Even though there were just 2 people there, he did it. But it just, that's just him. He just didn't want any attention from anybody. Whereas, if that was Manu or Tony or whatever, they'd probably do it with a little more pleasantry about him, right? But what a guy, what a competitor, man.
I would have walked into that. Did you say it was a Walgreens?
CVS.
I would have walked into that Walgreens and just loudly announced, "Hey, everybody, did you see Tim Duncan over there?"
What if Bill walked in and said, "Oh, mama, it's Tim Duncan"?
Then everyone would want their picture with Bill.
Come on.
This is maybe an unanswerable question, but do you remember the first Spurs game you ever did?
I remember. I don't remember the first game when I was officially, the team's announcer, but the first game I did was filling in for, I think it was when Dave Barnett was doing the games, and he had some college football obligations or whatever. But it was like the second game of the season, and they were in Denver. And to tell you how long ago it was, Jerry Tarkanian was the coach.
Wow.
And I could still remember that I went to visit with him. It was probably hour 15 before the game, whatever. He was out. He was very nice. I just sat out at just on the baseline. Guys are just doing their pre-warm up stuff, and Dan Issel comes down. Issel was coaching the Nuggets, I think, at that time, or GM. I can't remember which. But he comes down and says, "Hey, Tark," and they sit down. And I'm just kind of a fly on the wall, because I was like, "Hey, you want me?" And Tark was just like, "No, stay here." So, and Dan says, "So how's it going? Are you loving this?" And he goes, "I hate it." And he says, "What do you mean?" He goes, "There's just not enough time to practice. When do you practice?" And he goes, "You had to practice before the season starts." He goes, "You can't practice during the year." He says, "There's just too many games. You'll kill them if you practice the way you did at Vegas." And you can just see this look on Tark's face like, "Oh no, what am I going to do?"
And a week later, he was gone.
I was going to say.
Yeah, that's about it.
You know who else was there for that game? I almost guarantee you who else was there for that game was Mike Monroe. If you're telling Dan Issel's story, Denver story. Yeah.
Right. But
how has
did the game with?
Yeah.
So
if you could summarize how the NBA has changed and more kind of off the court, everybody knows about the superstars and whatnot, but just how an announcer's job has changed since you started. How would you summarize that?
Well, I mean, obviously it's going to be a get off my lawn type. I don't mean it to come way.
This is the Get Off My Lawn podcast.
Exactly. We need to change the name of this to Get Off My Lawn with Mike Finger.
But it just, we didn't realize it again at the time, but because of so few media, I mean, there obviously without the internet stuff, without whether it be podcasters or bloggers or whatever, people, home team, road team, everybody recognized you more, if nothing else, as, oh yeah, that's one of the Spurs guys. Players, were obviously much more accessible because the demands there. It seems like now you have to ask for permission for everything, and I get it, because with so many people around, think how it would be. But those were better times as far as that goes. As far as and you just felt that I know that you knew a few more things that weren't public, because you were able to visit with assistant coaches, head coaches, and there seemed to be more of a trust there. Maybe that they knew who they could trust to say something to, and maybe it would be something that they really don't want on the air, but they would just say, "Hey, don't use this, but here's an example." And it's I really miss that. I understand that, of course.
How many? I might know the answer to this. How many interviews did you get with Limby this year? Did you do it more than Zay or less than Zay?
Let's see. He got it one night and we didn't. There's another night. I think we had him. Let's see. We never had him for the pregame. Post game, we would only get him when they would win, of course. So they won 22 games. So I think it was two.
That's wild.
Maybe just one. I'm not sure. But that is frustrating. As accessible as it was, and how he, spoke after every game and everything else. I understand that the Spurs, wanted to protect him because he was doing so much media, but it's like, well, really, he ought to be doing your own television and radio network above everything else. For
the listeners at home to kind of explain what we're talking about. The after every game, there's separate windows here. The players come and do press conferences with everybody, and that's where Victor always came in and talked to us, as he's obligated to do. Although he was He was great. Like he was, even though every player is required to talk, some of them don't. And
He,
Victor
he was
always was
he was
available.
Manu-esque and showing up for
He was
everything.
Manu-esque and showing up. But the Spurs network, the Spurs own their own broadcast, and they do post-game player interviews after every game. And
Well, they have to win, right?
because of his obligations with others, he
Yeah.
didn't do as many with Bill and the Spurs. I do really want to tell the Zay story because I don't think I've laughed as hard as all year,
Well,
as hard
with
as
our
I
guest
did.
today was also a display of his professionalism, the way he got
Yes.
Zay, I think.
Just
So
to
go
set
ahead.
the table, and this is not going to get Bill in trouble because I'm not sure if Bill, even though he's retired, I don't want. This is not Bill. If you blame anybody for this story, blame Mike Finger. I'm the one violating confidences.
It's also
But the way
it's just a lighthearted story. That's all.
the way the
It didn't
story was
matter.
explained to me is, and this was after a long Spurs losing streak, right? Was this the game after they lost 18 in a row, something like that?
No, because I think when they broke that, that was at Detroit, and they didn't.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, so disregard what I just said, but it was a home victory during a rough patch of the year.
I mean,
And
I think it was right after they came back from the rodeo trip, right?
it's right after they came back from the
That
rodeo
is right.
trip. And so I got the chance during the pandemic season to sit in the truck, and I'm going to talk about that later. We're going to go over this week, and that's fine. But the people who are helping Bill out, Daniel Ashcraft, Mike Icciarillo, their whole crew, just it's a well-oiled machine. And as this game is ending, where it's clear the Spurs are going to win, there is this apparent not panic, but there's some urgency in the truck as to who we're going to get, who the Spurs TV broadcast is going to get post game. Can we get Wemby? And Bill, correct me if I'm wrong. But I don't think that your usual sideline person, Dan Weiss, was available. For some reason, he wasn't going to do it because he's doing the post-game show. And so it was communicated from Spurs PR to our very good friend Daniel Ashcraft that the interview will happen on the court after the game, and that it will be conducted by the regular in-game PA announcer, like the guy who does the timeouts, whose name is Zay. And Zay is great, but Zay.
Wait, let me interrupt you. I think it was first communicated it was going to be Chuck Carow.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
The dual host, Chuck Carow and Zay.
So apparently in the truck, Daniel Ashcraft screams, "Who the blank is Zay?" Like, who is Zay? Because Daniel Ashcraft doesn't get the chance to watch the timeouts. He's usually in the truck. He doesn't see what Zay's going on. So just describe to me, Bill, when Daniel, because it was seamless. It was an example of Bill Land's professionalism. On the TV broadcast, Bill Land, without skipping a beat, says, "We are going to go to Wemby on the court with Zay. It's flawless." That's the game where Wemby ends up cursing on the court in his charming way. But that's just an example of live TV, right, Bill? Adapting.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, what's funny is, and you can't blame Zay or Chuck. I mean, they are great at their job, which is handling the timeouts, the promotions, winning games, and, excitement to the Spurs fan to get them all geared up and everything else. They're not interviewers of basketball players, and their basketball knowledge is certainly limited. But I just absolutely died laughing because Zay, I think all he said or was like just something about, wasn't this great or something? And then Wemby, thank goodness, just took the mic.
Just
that's what he
said.
Yes. Man, did I miss this blank? Oh my goodness. And that was kind of the interview, right?
Right. It worked out for the best. Live TV, any other just live TV moments that could have gone disastrously that ended up working out or did go disastrously? Like what is that spur to mind there, Bill, over the years?
Oh, man, I'm trying to think. I'm sure there's several. I used to tell guys that worked with me when I was doing a lot of college stuff, you never know who you're going to work with, regular partners, but it was former coaches, who were out of the business for a year or out of the coaching business, doing broadcasting, and they were just learning what to do with different things. And the funny thing would be, we would finish a game, and I don't know who the coach would be, but he would like, okay, what now? I go, hey, we go drink beer. We have a great time. I said, that's the best thing about this game. We don't care who wins and loses. We're doing a Big 12 game between Baylor and Texas Tech or whatever. It's like, I said, that's why it beats coaching. If you won the game, you're sitting over there going, all right, enjoy the evening. And then tomorrow we got to get on to Oklahoma. And I said, and if you lose the game, you're like, oh my God, what happened here? All that stuff. But I can't remember. I'll come back to it. Let me keep thinking.
Okay. I did want to bring up something else.
Disaster.
You're leading into this perfectly too. And I mean this sincerely, more sincere than Jeff McDonald could ever be.
That's not a hard bar to clear, by the way.
One reason why Spurs fans love you so much, and have enjoyed you so much for so long, is the genuine chemistry that you have with Shawn Elliott, and just the back and forth that you guys have, where you guys. You just said you never know who you're going to work with in a booth. It could be a coach you've never met before, what have you. You guys, and I'll speak for you, you guys are friends. You guys are good friends. And you have kind of this shorthand that I know Spurs fans just really appreciate. And I'm just wondering how quickly that developed, and just what it meant to you to be working with him for so long.
Yeah, the development is really hard to say. Man, there was a moment, or boy, that season is when it seemed like we really clicked. So much of it really does go to Shawn being just such a great guy and always concerned about others before himself, and wanting to make the telecast the best it could be, which, to be very honest, a lot of guys in this business that are former players, they just don't see it that way. It's not that they don't give a good effort, but they just look at it as, hey, I'm here to impart my knowledge. Yeah, I've been there, and the guy sitting beside me has not, and that's great. They do a good job, but Daniel Ashcraft can tell you, our producer, any request we make of Shawn, Shawn would go, yeah, I'll be glad to do it. And sometimes, he's like, man, and there might be last minute where, hey, somebody didn't show up for this or that. We got you to do this, or, and that it just makes you comfortable to work with someone like that. And then his humor, he's got that great ability to be bragging on the air, but he doesn't mean a word of it. And then we can still stack it on him. The best example is, of course, the Memorial Day Miracle. We joke that it's in his contract, that he's got to have this air so many times a night. And, all you got to do is cue it up, and boom, there it goes, and he acts like it's the first time he's seen it, right? And he'll make some comment about, come on out there, Rasheed, get another piece of this. And that just kind of makes everybody, the truck included, all the crew, just feel like, man, we loved you, Shawn. You're our guy. And just over the years, there'd be times like where I might want to direct something to him that I want an opinion out of, that we've kind of gone a different way or whatever. I'll just nudge him like, hey, look at me here, because I really want you to understand what I'm asking without saying anything. Or I can just give a glance. Or the same thing with him. When he'll say something, then I'll be thinking, oh man, this is great. This is going to lead me to go into this. And And the best thing too is our entire crew, and you know this, Mike, because you've been in the truck. They're huge fans of the game and the team, and they understand basketball, all to some very different degrees. But when either one of us might say something, somebody back there's going, "Oh, yeah, we've got that time that Tim just knocked Shawn off the chair in the pregame show. I got that video now." And it's like, Daniel get in my ear and go, hey, Avery found that video. Go to it now. And it might be the middle of a timeout or whatever, but it's a worthless game where the team's up by 50 or 20. So that makes it just a whole team deal, not just me and Shawn or that kind of thing. Kind of a long answer, but
no, that's great.
That just develops over the years because we've had the same group together as well.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say,
Shawn, another example, Shawn, and it's usually because the guys all know I'm never eating sushi, period. Okay. I don't care if I've been starving for 24 days. No, I'll find something else. But Shawn will, it either happens on a trip that if I'm along, I'm going out with a friend or a family or whatever, or maybe I'm not on the trip. Shawn would just tell the crew, "Hey, tonight's sushi night," and he takes them out and he pays for everything. But he just endears himself to everybody.
As a traveling beat writer that has to put the puzzle together of the expense report every trip, I always love it when Shawn shows his face. That fixes the puzzle immediately.
Right. Well, you know what he always says? Anytime we would go out to eat, in post game or whatever, Shawn always picks up the tab, and he goes, "Pop told me a long time ago, whoever makes the most picks it up." He goes, "More than you guys, I'm picking it up." So it's like, well, man, we need to invite you more often.
While you were answering that question earlier about the relationship between you and Shawn and the truck, it did sort of strike me. It's a lot like, just bear with me here, but it's a lot like the big three were, that corporate knowledge they had together, Tim, Tony, and Manu, where they could, react on a look or a wink or a shift of the eyes, and they just knew it's something that's forged over time. That's the only way you can have that. And you and Shawn and the guys in the truck always seem to have, you had that naturalness, that chemistry together that only comes with being together for so long, because it's been the same truck for how many years? As long as I've been around, it's been the same core of those guys too. So I think when the fans watching at home see that, it's something that's only been built up over the years, and it's not going to be something that can really be recreated on the fly, I don't think.
Well, Jeff, it goes with the camera guys too. They don't travel with us, but so many of those guys are there for years and years. They remember stuff, if you take Kick, our director, and the Spurs director of broadcasting, Daniel Ashcraft, have both been there for over 25 years. Kick, I think, might be the 30 mark. He's close to being one of the originals. And then Laura Rossino handles graphics. Avery Schneider, Lamar Wilkerson, they all traveled with us all the time and done it for years. And Lamar and Avery are younger guys, so they brought a whole new body. Aren't
they like 50 now, Lamar and Avery?
Yeah. I keep thinking they're young. Actually, they're probably not. But it really is unique. And other teams may have some of that, or broadcast crews, but I don't think to quite the degree that we've had. And also because the team has been so successful for so many years, it's just been an incredible fit.
I know that this leads into what you said before about what you're going to miss are the relationships and the camaraderie and all that. The road trips, grabbing those beers after the games, those oat sodas, those barley pops. But But in terms of the on-court stuff itself, the games, like Jeff mentioned earlier, having a front row seat to some of the greatest basketball ever played. What sticks out? If I can ask the cliche question here, are there a game is there a game you remember, a play you remember, a call you remember that you think will stick with you forever?
Yeah, there's several. Just one that I would tell anybody that would ask me if it was somebody. We were on Colorado for a couple of weeks, and Gail and I played golf with a couple of guys that were just in the same foursome that I'd never met before in my life. And one of them was a school principal. The other guy was former college basketball official, whatever. But they asked me, first thing I say comes to mind as far as just great memories is the 2014 championship. Even though in the finals, we weren't doing TV, of course, but I was sitting along Philly Billy, at my 2 cents here and there as his color commentator, if you will. But to experience what happened in 2013 and anybody that was around it, fan, broadcaster, writer, whatever, and to witness that whole comeback season that the team was so driven. And finally in game 5, when they got on that roll and Manu's dunk, Eddie was hitting 3 after 3. And it was just one of those moments that anytime in the regular where you're thinking, man, if they just make one more play, this place is going to lose it. They made up 4 more plays, it seemed like, right? And I'm just sitting up there just screaming and yelling, trying to not overcome Bill's play-by-play, being a respectful color commentator. But it was just like goosebumps. And then there's that always sticks out. And in reverse, the 2013 debacle in Miami, when people were literally running out of the arena when the Spurs had lead, and Bill and I are sitting at the very top of that first level next to an aisle. I had to bring my foot out of there. I'd have tricked 100 people. And then for them to lose that game, and then following up with game 7, and kind of a side story of that, following that, Gail and I went to Australia, as we were doing it during those years, like 3 days after it. When I got back after 3.5 weeks, I sat down, was just cleaning up some stuff in my office, everything. It just turned on the TV, and NBA TV was airing Game 6 of 20, and it was with about 5 minutes to go. So I just sat there and watched it. And when they called the timeout, Miami with the Spurs were up 5, whatever it was, with seconds to go, right? I don't know how many exactly.
20-some seconds.
I was sitting there and I was really going, well, man, they're going to close this out. I've just been literally out of the country for so long. I'd almost forgotten, oh no, because I could see the Miami players, LeBron included, they were done. Their shoulders were slumped. I mean, this thing was sealed and delivered. And that just led me to, after watching that torturous ending again, to fully appreciate what happened in 2014.
Yeah, I'll never forget the presser after Game 7, the losing press conference. They had that podium set up like right outside the tunnel to the arena. So while the Spurs players that they're talking about, like the worst loss of their lives, you could still hear the celebration going on, like really just the other side of a curtain almost. And that juxtaposition was something else. And, I've always said, like, this stuff isn't life or death, but like that day listening to like Manu talk and Tim talk and Tony talk, it felt like someone had died that night.
Right. Oh, goodness gracious.
Like it was the most devastated I've ever seen any people over sports. And you and I are Cubs fans.
Right. We can fully understand.
How many Cubs fans are you going to get to next, or Cubs games are you going to get to next year, Bill?
Well, I was supposed to go this summer and couldn't get our group together, unfortunately. And I was supposed to be staying pretty much in isolation for a long period of time. So I didn't want to risk it. But numerous, I could tell you that. Yeah. And home. And I'm also wanting to go to, I haven't been to the Pittsburgh ballpark, and I've heard that's an incredible place to watch baseball. Yeah. And Pirate fans don't seem to care, so you can probably get tickets pretty reasonable. So I'm definitely going to put a trip in there as well. But hey, there's nothing like Wrigley. I know Jeff's been several times. If you, Mike?
Yeah. I have. I've been a couple times.
You got your picture taken.
I'm not a Cubs fan like you guys are, but it's a great place to go.
My finger had his photo snapped outside, like on Waveland Avenue, the night of the Bartman game.
That's true. I've told that story many times. I was
throwing stuff at Bartman too?
I was on Waveland Avenue. I'd gone down. That was so long ago. It was during the days when the Express News and newspapers nationwide would go cover stuff like Carlisle Holiday from Roosevelt was a San Antonio guy who was playing quarterback for Notre Dame. So I got sent up to cover a Notre Dame USC football game. Right about the hometown kid. There was also a basketball coaches meeting in Chicago that week. It was after the Dave Bliss scandal, but I just walked down to Wrigley to see them make the World Series. I didn't have a ticket to the game. I was on Waveland Avenue, and an Associated Press reporter took a photo of fans on Waveland Avenue, and I was in it, and my desk knew that I was there. That was a funny story. Which is, people not tune into this podcast to hear Mike Finger's stories about the 2003 Cubs, but that's true. One thing that I think people are excited to hear is that, Bill, you're making plans to go out and do stuff, and there are people worried because we've had in the newspaper about your diagnosis. You've been dealing with cancer, but it sounds like from everything you've told me and told us that you're feeling great and making plans to go to Pittsburgh games and do stuff, and that's cool to hear.
Yeah, schedule is full. And I just, I'd just be remiss if I just don't thank all the people, my wife, Gail, my sons, family, friends, the Spurs organization, but so many people that, I've never met. The social media response, I kept waiting to see, thank goodness he's gone, and maybe Elon Musk eliminated those. I don't know, but I've just been overwhelmed the reception and the way people have looked out. But I also literally sent a message back to one guy saying, "Hey, I'm still alive. I'm not dead, and in fact, I'm feeling really well." And I want people to understand that. I think sometimes people misunderstand when you mentioned that multiple myeloma it's not curable, but it's treatable. It's very treatable, and I've had incredible treatments. And the stem cell transplant, they tell me that when you go into remission, that the best chance to have the longest remission is to get a stem cell transplant, and that's why I did it. And that I went through 100-day recovery period to where you pretty much have to stay out of big crowds and everything else. And as you go through that, you gain your strength back. And I feel better than I have in really a year or two now. And I'm able to go. I've been golfing for a month. I've been doing everything else. Like I said, we went to Colorado and spent 3 weeks out there. And the situation now is that when I visit with a stem cell transplant doctor next week, I went over a bunch of tests and results that they took earlier this week, that he'll hopefully give me clearance to do whatever I really feel comfortable in doing. And they'll put me on what they call maintenance therapy, which is probably a low-dose chemo pill. And when it ever does come back, whether it's 3 months or 30 years or whatever, hopefully there's better treatments, or I'll repeat the stem cell transplant. Or there's many people who think that in 3 to 5 years, there may actually be a cure. There's just incredible work going on in the medicine field. And they told me when I got this that, the bad news is you got this multiple myeloma. The good news is this is the golden age of medicine. And got so many things to take care of. But that gets me to, going to a group of us are going out to Mesquite, Nevada, and St. George, Utah, on a little golf and gambling junket here in a week or two. Going to in October party for an old friend that celebrating at Cape Television in Wichita, where one of my first stops. It's going to stop, see people in Tulsa down the way where we used to live. Get together a bunch of old high school buddies on a golfing junket down at St. Simon's Island in November. Fall trip to New England coming up late September, early October. And occasional Spurs game.
That's awesome. That's just outstanding to hear. You're more active than we are, it sounds like.
But I'm feeling terrific, and I'm going to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I was jealous earlier this week. I asked Bill like what's up next for him, and he had to take out his calendar to look at all the things that he's got on it. And I'm like, when people ask me that question, I just take out the Spurs schedule, and that tells me where I'm going to be for the next months. And I've never been more jealous in my entire life of
the only
freedom.
The big basketball on Bill's schedule, I know he's got two sons coaching high school basketball here in the state of Texas. And,
college.
No, I think they're both in high school now, aren't they both?
Oh, they're back in high school?
Yeah. Taylor left Longwood University to become the head coach at Second Baptist in Houston. And Cooper is the head coach at St. Mike's Academy in Austin. I was telling Mike before we got on the air here, there are different classifications of TAPS. So they both have
win state titles.
State championship, right?
They don't have to play each other, right?
So,
yeah.
Right. But they probably will play each other starting next season. Taylor got the job so late they couldn't work it out schedule-wise, or he was afraid of losing the little brother, one or the other. But they're going to get sick and tired of my director of common sense advice to them on all things basketball and off the court, and tell them just too bad. I said, now the old man doesn't have the Spurs to mess around with. I'll be giving you all the things you need to be doing. It'll be great fun though to be able to follow them and see them coach and to follow their teams.
So happy to hear that for you and your family. We're rooting for the 30 years until the next dose that you have. It just sounds like you got a lot of great stuff going on. You should be really proud of what you did with the Spurs. An honor to have you back here today. An honor to have known you. And hey, I still know you. I'm not going to talk about you in the past tense. That's ridiculous.
There you go.
You're going to be. You might be back.
Well.
We need to go meet at a just for old time's sake. Meet like at a Buffalo Wild Wings or something,
and get sushi.
And get sushi.
Yeah, Daniel Ashcraft will definitely be there. And
I always thought Daniel should write like the Michelin guide to Buffalo Wild Wings across the country. He could rate them all. Portland, Detroit.
If I can get a media pass, which might be a chore, then I'll come down a couple times this season so I can sit back and crack jokes when you guys sit down to visit with Pop pregame and postgame.
That's a date, Bill. And thank you so much for joining us. We went longer than I think we've ever gone on this podcast, and it's been well worth it. Thanks to everybody out there for listening. Know everybody's happy for Bill. Thanks so much. Until we see you next time, take care of each other and keep it real.